Hi, this is Kurt Plattenberger with the Airplanes and Rockets website. And back in the late 1970s, early 80s, I had two of the Airtronics Aquila gliders. And the first one I built from plans and a hardware kit I bought after seeing it in RC Modeler. And then the second one I built using a kit that I bought from Airtronics. Both of them lasted a fairly long time. I have both of them ended up with the same ultimate fate, where a hard landing, too many hard landings, did them in to the point where I wasn't able to or willing to repair them anymore. With the fuselage, I found that it ended up being very weak back in this area, even though it had light ply for the fuselage sizes and some fairly hefty balsa for the top and bottom. So I bought a ABS plastic fuselage back in the day, and it extended the life of that second Aquila much longer. 30 years went by, maybe more, and I decided I'd like to have another Aquila, and I looked online, and I bought one off of eBay a few years back and then foolishly sold it. When I went back again to look for some, when you could find them available at all, they were selling for in the $300 to $400 realm, and I wasn't willing to pay quite that much. So what I did was I bought some plans, and I had them enlarged to 105% because I wanted a glider with a wingspan over 100 inches. I've never had one before. I had a couple at 99, the Aquila and then the Mark's wind-free glider. So I built this off of plans. I've added a few of my own personal preferences, touches of the construction technique. It's a little heavier than it probably should be, but I always like to build very strong and a little bit heavier if I have to. I'm going to show you a little bit of what I've done here. Most of it is best done, I'm sure, with still pictures, but I do want to show you one thing I came up with for the spoilers on the wings. The original spoilers were actuated by a set of cords that ran from the spoilers and the wings, fed through the fuselage, and then went to a servo that sat in the cockpit area. And that was okay, but I never was really comfortable with it because the closing of the spoilers depended on a little lead weight on the spoiler to hold it shut. And I just never felt real good about that kind of passive gravity-driven system. So this time, because we have the inexpensive, lightweight, small servos, I buried one in each wing and drive the spoilers directly from those servos. I'm going to show you what I've done. I'm going to have to come over and zoom in just a moment, but I'll show you here real quick, and then maybe best to I'll zoom in. I had a over-the-center geometry type setup on this push rod for the servos. If you watch the way the flat moves, or the spoiler moves as I change the stick, you see that it goes up to a maximum and then it backs off just a little bit. And what's happening is, because of the way I have this push rod set up, when it's at full extension, there's almost no pressure put back on the servo anymore because this push rod bent the way it's bent, it allows the spoiler to rest solidly up against there. And then as it goes back down there now, it can push, and I can hear the servo straining as I push on it, like the wind pressure, even though admittedly it's not that great. But when it's all the way up and I have this geometry set up, I can push on that pretty hard and I never hear the servo strain at all. I'm going to do a zoom in on that area real quick, and I'll actuate it. You can see what's going on. Okay, here we go. The mechanism and the servo are in the upper left-hand section of the video here. If you look, there's the section of push rod. Now you can see that the spoiler is hard up against that right now. And if you look at the servo arm, it is pretty much vertical. So when the force is put on this push rod, there's almost no lateral force on that servo arm that would cause it to want to move. Now, as I decrease the spoiler throw, you'll see that it opens up a little bit and you can see this push rod moving back down, you'll be able to see the shape of it more clearly either in the still photos or at this point here. You can see how it comes, it pivots inside this piece of brass tubing and it comes out like this and then bends back in. And you can see now that if I push on it, see that's it's kind of spring loaded at that point, which is also kind of good. And then eventually the servo pulls the spoiler all the way shut. And it's a good hard mechanical closing now rather than relying just on the weight of a piece of lead to pull that spoiler down. So it's a pretty nice setup the way it goes. There's the good shot of the way the push rod is bent again. Goes over the center and then comes back down again, rests right up against that flat section, so it's a nice tight fit on there.